Hello YouTube and welcome to another video. In this one we have some unanswered questions about the X2 that I am going to try to answer. In a recent video I rebuilt the top end, had it bored out and put some new pistons in it. I also machined the head and put an O-ring groove in it, and I am using copper wire as an O-ring. I changed the compression ratio, the shape of the squish band, and a few other little things, and so in this video we're going to pull the head off, take a look inside there and see if what I did was a complete disaster or if it's working at all. First things first, I'm going to check the compression on the X2 and see what it says. Before I go any further with this video, I have a very exciting announcement to make, and I'm going to go about it in a slightly strange way. I've been teasing you guys for a little while now, saying that I'm planning an engine swap, and I haven't told you what engine I'm planning on using. If you want to find out what engine it is, there is a link in the description of this video that will take you to a Jet Ski Brothers video. If you already watched the Jet Ski Brothers videos, then you might already know what engine it is. If you don't, head on over there and all will be revealed. I will be letting you guys know in an upcoming video what engine I'm going to be using, but if you want to get a little inside scoop, head on over there. Give the Jet Ski Brothers some support because they're great guys and they make interesting content. Anyway, let's get on with this video. Nice, both of them are about the same color. Back one might be a little bit darker. Not sure if the camera's going to pick that up. But they look pretty good actually. Yeah, 162 maybe. That's kind of concerning. Why is the back one 180? Yeah, that is 162-ish. I'm gonna have to figure out what the deal is there. I'm kind of curious to see what's going on in there. More than curious, I'm excited. Ratchet. Wondering how hard the head is going to be to get off because I glued it on. The water jacket area is glued. I think it's moving a little bit now. There we go. All right. I'm very curious to see what it's going to look like under here after running for a little bit. Do we have any leakage? It looks like the answer is no, no leakage. That's pretty cool. Wow, that's a lot of moisture. Okay, well, it's good news. My head still looks very nice. No detonation marks. There's no leakage around the gap. There is no signs of blow-by. There's no signs of gases blowing into the water jackets. So that is really good news. I think that this indicates that the head was running quite cool. It's been a long time since I've read the top of a piston or a combustion chamber or squish band, so I'm a little rusty on the details. I'm not going to pretend like I remember everything. I used to know how to look at a piston and determine by the carbon or oil on it whether it was running hot or cold, or yeah. too much oil, not enough oil, too rich or too lean. But a lot of that stuff is escaping me right now. I am very impressed at what condition these combustion chambers are in. I know I only put a couple of hours of use on it, but still, very pleased with that. Looks like it might have been running a little bit on the cold side. So we still need to answer the question as to why there is less compression on the front cylinder than there is on the rear. Since that last clip, I put the head back on and torqued it up. I wanted to make sure that I ran the engine enough to get rid of that moisture. Most of the moisture is there because I parked my cold jet ski in my heated garage, and yeah, that's a warning to the rest of you. It's a very good idea to run your jet ski a few times after you've parked it, and it's also a very good idea to use fogging oil before you put it away for the season. The noise that you hear in the background is my heater and my exhaust fan, so I apologize for that, but it was a little bit smoky in here. Alright YouTube, so after pulling the head off for the second time, I can see what the markings are around here. I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but what it actually is the water from the cooling jackets is making it in around up to the O-ring. So it's kind of discoloring the aluminum a little bit. And the reason why I know that's the case is because you can actually see some rust here and along here as well. So the cast iron sleeve is actually rusting a little bit. So basically what's happening is the copper O-ring is holding it probably like 1/1000th of an inch or something, or a couple thousandths of an inch up right around this area. And because it's holding it up there, the water is allowed to get in. So when I put it together next time, I will put some glue right up around the edge, and that should take care of that problem. Not that it's really a problem, but it's not ideal. Now that the O-rings are completely seated in place, it turns out that they're actually quite difficult to remove. But I'm glad that they didn't come out right away, because I actually wanted to check one thing before I remove the O-rings. I want to check to see how much they're protruding from the head. Basically that will tell me how much of a gap approximately is around the outside of the head surface. So if that was unclear, basically what I'm going to do is put a ruler across, use some feeler gauges, and see how high the copper is sitting up out of the O-ring groove. So now when I put the ruler across the surface like this, there's a small gap between the head and the ruler, and it's actually over 5/1000ths thick. It's actually very close to 5/1000ths thick. So now we'll check this one. Okay, so they're about 8 thou gap. I'm happy with that. Let's see, what else do we have here? I've thought about it a little bit more, and it actually makes sense for me to leave the O-ring in place. That will give me a more accurate reading of the actual CC of my head. So I don't know how the pros recommend to do this, but I'm going to do it with my spark plugs installed, because that is the only real way to get an accurate reading. The spark plugs that you're using have a volume to them, and that volume needs to be accounted for if you want to be accurate. Here's a nice easy way to level your head. Simply use your cylinder with the stud still on it, and then you put some nuts on part way, and then you put your head in, It'll give you lots of clearance for your spark plugs, and it allows you to make micro adjustments to level your head perfectly. And raise this side. And it's just as easy as that. All right, nice and level in both directions. The way this process works, I'm going to fill up the head with a liquid, and based on how much liquid is used, that will tell me what the volume of the head is. I can then use the volume of the head compared to the volume of the cylinder to get a compression ratio. I'm going to do that on both heads to see how close they are to one another. If you're going to try this yourself, it is a very good idea to use alcohol because alcohol has a low surface tension. If you use water, it can actually bond to the surface and give you an inaccurate reading. There are a couple of ways around that, but it's just the easiest to use alcohol. It's a good idea also not to use solvents because, as you will see coming up next, I'm going to stick a piece of plastic to the surface using grease. And the solvent would eat the grease, and then it could leak out and give me an inaccurate reading. And also the solvent could damage the plastic, and then it would be murky and I wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. There are a few ways to go about doing this, but I find it's usually easiest to find an old CD case lying around. So I am going to poke a hole in this and I will come right back and show you guys what we're doing. So I tried drilling a hole in the case and I very quickly remembered why you don't drill a hole in the case. And that is because the plastic is extremely brittle and it will just break. So you can use a torch or a lighter, heat it up, poke a hole through. The next step is to take some grease. I've got some assembly goo, and I'm going to carefully smear the goo around the outside of the O-ring. You don't want to leave a bunch of grease behind in the squish band or combustion chamber because that would give you a false reading. It would tell you that the combustion chamber was actually smaller than it was. Now, I need to accurately put alcohol into my syringe. This is 25 milliliters or 25 cc's. And now I can actually see it sealing. There. I think I'm going to go with 20 mils. Now I'm going to put the 20 cc's in. You can see it took about 2 cc's just to fill the plug. Curious to see how much the combustion chamber itself takes. So the combustion chamber on this side took 16. We'll see how much the one on the other side takes. Let's reload here. So there is 20 milliliters in there. We've got another 20 here. Let's see if we can get this stuff in without making a huge mess. So you guys can see I'm having a bit of trouble with getting the air out, which means it's not 100% level. So what I need to do is actually raise this side just a little bit. Should have known that this wouldn't work out perfect the first time. All right, let's continue putting alcohol in there. We are full and we're just at about 10.5, so that took 30.5 cc's. All right, we got the second one ready to go. I just need to fill up my syringe. And we're coming up on oh wow. I think this combustion chamber is quite a bit bigger. So this combustion chamber actually takes about 19 cc's and the other one took 17 cc's. So for some reason this combustion chamber is actually larger than the other one. This is the mag side cylinder, so if it has a larger volume, that would explain why it has a lower compression. Give you guys, oh, it happened while I was moving the camera. I was gonna say, give you guys a nice, I keep moving the camera every time I talk. So if you guys remember, I added 20 cc's at first, and then I put another 20 in the syringe, and I've used 14 of that, which gives me 34 cc's, and this one only used 30 cc's. So this is 4 cc's extra. That is a problem. That is why the mag side has lower compression. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to retest this one just to verify, and yeah, we'll see what happens. It is now the next day. I have run that same test 2 more times on both domes and got basically the same results. Percentage-wise, this explains why the mag cylinder was lower in compression. Ordinarily, if you did this test, you would be doing it to find out what your compression ratio is so that you would know what fuel to run in your engine. I was doing this test to find out why one cylinder had lower compression, and I've answered that question. I would have liked to do a compression ratio test or calculation on this, but there's one more measurement that I haven't taken that I would need if I wanted to do that. And that measurement is basically how low the piston sits below the deck or above the deck. I'm sure the camera can't pick this up very well, but the piston actually sits slightly below the level of the deck, and that space has a volume to it, and that needs to be taken into account for the calculation of your compression ratio. For this reason, I'm not going to be calculating actual compression ratio, but I did punch these numbers into a compression ratio calculator, and it's giving me about 1 in the difference from the mag to the PTO. So basically, if my rear cylinder or my PTO was running 10-1, my front cylinder or the mag cylinder would be running 9-1. So that is enough to cause the compression difference on the gauge, and that has answered our question. I hope some of you found that interesting, entertaining, or educational. I know it wasn't my most exciting video content ever, but I had to do some work to the X2 and I thought I would take you guys along for the ride. I'm kind of stuck in limbo right now because I haven't fully decided that I've done my last ride of the year, and so I don't want to completely tear the X2 apart yet. I am, however, planning on doing a bunch of bodywork, including painting, and as you guys may have heard, an engine swap. So things are about to get exciting around here, but for now, I'm kind of stuck in a bit of a lull. I've been working, cleaning up the garage and trying to organize so I can make videos more efficiently and yeah, figure out lighting and stuff like that. I've also been working on a version 2 of my surf brace. When I built version 1, I did a bunch of things kind of as an afterthought, and so version 2 is going to have a couple of add-ons or modular add-ons. And surprise, surprise, version 1 and version 2 clamp just so happened to be here. Completely by chance. I didn't plan this at all. Anyway, version 1 had a cross brace built into it that were held on by these clamps that just had 1 bolt in them. And I thought that was pretty cool because it was really clean. I discovered after doing that if I simply use a traditional style clamp like this with 2 bolts, what it allows me to do is mount an e-box mount, water line holders, and gas line holders to the outside. What I've done is cut an 1/8 inch slot in these, and that's how it tightens down onto the brace and onto the carbon fiber. With these ones, I made it so that it's a bit more forgiving. I'm going to make it so that there is a rubber pad in between the carbon fiber and the aluminum clamp. And then again, there is a 1/8 inch slot on each side. So the brace will be held on one side, and then on the other side, you will have an option of putting a bracket to hold an e-box or your water lines, or on the other side, your fuel lines. You could even add a piece to hold a relay if your name is Joel and you decided that you're not going to use a normal relay box and just use a relay out of a tractor. Anyway, wow, that was a long rant. If you haven't already, make sure to head to the description of this video and check out the link to the Jetski Brothers video where they reveal what engine I will be swapping. While you're over there, make sure to also check out some of their videos and also subscribe because they release all sorts of interesting content and they're all around great guys. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.